Hey there, good people. My name is Scott, and you are watching Sword and Shield Studio. Right now, we're going to learn how to use the Perturb modifier in DaVinci Resolve Fusion to get some semi-randomized movement without using manual keyframes. Now, this works similarly to the wiggle expression in Adobe After Effects, so if you're familiar with that, you already know how useful a tool like this can be. Let's see how I can use it. Okay, so here I am on the Fusion page within Resolve where I built this Fusion composition without any kind of movement happening. We have two background nodes merged together, a white and a black, and the white background node is masked out to the shape of a circle using an ellipse node, and merged to both backgrounds is a bat silhouette, because why not? I will include a link to this project archive in the video description if you want to follow along using this example. Say we want to use the Perturb modifier to introduce some random movement to the white circle in this composition to give it a sort of searching spotlight effect. In order to do that, I will left click the ellipse node that is creating the mask for the white background, since that is the element that I want to move. Now we want to animate the center value that determines the ellipse's position. So in order to do that, go to your inspector and right click the diamond keyframe icon to the right of the center value. And in the drop down, hit modify with and click perturb. If we play this back, you can see what the default behavior of the perturb modifier looks like. It pushes the ellipse along the X and Y axes with an eased curving motion and ultimately gravitates at some point back to the center. You can change how the modifier acts by clicking the modifiers tab at the top of the inspector here. And make sure you still have that ellipse node still selected for this to show up. Here we have a number of different options. First is the value for the X and Y axes. I'm going to pause this here. This determines the point at which the perturb modifier gravitates towards. So since this is set at 0.5 for both X and Y, the perturb modifier will gravitate towards the very center of this composition. That's what we want in this case, so I'm going to leave those values alone. The X and Y scale options will determine the maximum range for the perturb modifier for that axis. If I set the Y scale to 0, for instance, if I drag that all the way down and play this back, you'll see there's no movement along the Y axis anymore. It only moves horizontally across the X axis. If I increase the scale of the X axis, you will see there's more range of motion. The spotlight, the circle goes further from the center than it would if the value were lower. I'm going to reset these values to 1 each. Next we have the random seed, which feeds random numbers into the perturb modifier based on a seed number you place here. This is a great way to introduce some variety if you have multiple perturb modifiers going on in your animation. You can either input your own random seed manually here or hit the reseed button here until you have an effect that you like. The last three options affect the behavior of the modifier and are relatively self-explanatory. I'll keep the animation playing back so you can see these change in real time. Strength determines how strong the movement is with the modifier. If I increase the strength, you could see the ellipse deviates much further from the center. The wobble value will add greater turbulence depending on the value you set here. If I increase the wobble a good amount, you can see the animation becomes much more frantic and random and wobbles around the curves more frequently. And last we have speed, which determines the speed of the animation, obviously. And you see if we increase that, we can really create a frantic, searching spotlight. And of course, if you were creating this specific animation effect, you wouldn't want that. You'd probably lower the speed here. But generally, the higher the value for the speed option, the quicker the motions. That does it for this tutorial. As you can see, the Perturb Modifier is a really useful tool within Fusion that allows you to introduce some seemingly randomized movement to your animation without using manual keyframes. Using this modifier, you can also affect size, color, or any other value that can be affected by an expression in Fusion. If you learned something watching this video, please consider subscribing to the channel where I upload a video just like this one every week. Keep in mind, however, my schedule may be impacted as I'm in the middle of a large move. However, I'll try to get back to streaming more and giving you guys some more great DaVinci Resolve content. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.